This is tens of thousands of tons of steel, and to get it into the water, engineers don't lower it in gently. They let it fall, sideways, on purpose. It looks like a catastrophe in slow motion, but every single second of it is precisely controlled. Because launching a ship is one of the most dangerous and most misunderstood moments in all of engineering. Here's the problem nobody thinks about. A finished ship can outweigh 50,000 cars. There is no crane on Earth that can pick that up. You can't drive it, you can't carry it, and somehow it has to get from dry land into deep water. But it's worse than just being heavy. A ship is designed to float, which means it's built to be held up evenly by water pushing on every inch of its hull. On land, that same hull is resting on a few blocks of wood. The weight isn't spread out anymore, it's concentrated. And the moment you try to move it, the steel starts to flex. Get it wrong, and a ship can literally break its own back, snap in half under its own weight before it ever touches the sea. So the real question isn't, how do you move something this heavy? It's, how do you move something this heavy without destroying it in the process? Engineers have been solving that puzzle for over 300 years, and they came up with three completely different answers. The oldest and by far the most dramatic is the gravity launch. The ship isn't built on flat ground. It's built on a slipway, a massive ramp that tilts down towards the water. Under the hull, workers lay two long tracks called the ways, and then they grease them with tons of specialized launch lubricant, so slippery it makes ice feel like sandpaper. The ship sits on a sliding cradle on top of that grease, held in place by triggers. Everything, the entire weight of the ship, is now resting on nothing but friction. Then, at the exact planned moment, they release the triggers, and gravity takes over. The ship slides backward, stern first, down the ramp, picking up speed towards the water. And here's the part that looks terrifying, but is actually the whole point. The ship goes in stern first, so that the back end hits the water and starts to float, while the front is still on the ramp. For a few seconds, the ship is half floating, half sliding, and it pivots on a single support at the bow called the forepoppet. That pivot is the moment of maximum stress in the entire life of the hull. If the math is off, that's where it fails. But the stress isn't even the scariest part. Think about what you've just done. You've taken tens of thousands of tons and set it loose, sliding into a river, and rivers have another side. A ship launched at full speed doesn't just gently float away. It shoots across the water with enormous momentum, and if nothing stops it, it will slam straight into the opposite bank. So engineers chain it down, literally. Huge piles of drag chains are stacked along the hull, connected by cables. As the ship races into the water, it drags those chains behind it, and their weight and friction act like an anchor, bleeding off speed until the ship coasts to a stop in open water. It's a controlled crash. And it doesn't always work. Ships have gotten stuck halfway down the ramp when the grease failed. Others have launched too fast and been damaged. Some have tipped. This is why, before the launch, someone smashes a bottle of champagne on the bow. That tradition started partly as a blessing for a moment everyone knew could go horribly wrong. Now, the gravity slide needs one thing: a long stretch of deep water to slow down in. But what if your shipyard sits on a narrow river? You can't send the ship straight out. It would hit the far side before it ever slowed down. So engineers do something that looks completely insane. They launch it sideways. The entire ship slides off the ramp broadside, its whole length hitting the water at once. And the result is spectacular. The hull drops, rolls hard to one side, and shoves out a wall of water big enough to look like a small tsunami. That wave is not a side effect. It's a known, calculated hazard. Spectators have to stand far back because a side launch wave can flood the riverbank. The ship rocks violently, rolls back, and then settles, floating, perfectly stable. What looks like the ship almost capsizing is actually the design working exactly as intended. If you've never looked at a ship the same way again after this, hit subscribe, because everything around you was built by engineering exactly this hidden. See you in the next one.